All right, hey there, folks. First thing is first, this is not an ironic guide. I haven't gotten to the point yet where I can make ironic War of Rights guides. This is a completely serious guide, or at least a set of quick tips on how to do the flag bearer role in War of Rights. It's a position that is not terribly difficult to do relatively well, but I think that there are a lot of little tiny efficiencies out there that folks can use to do it even better. It's generally a role that is well suited, I think, for one of the most senior NCOs in a company. It's one of those roles that historically was kind of scoffed at. It was kind of looked down on as like, well, you don't really contribute anything. In many ways, it's kind of the consummate support or team player position. And I would argue that after your company CO, it's the second most important position in each company. So another way to think about the importance of the flag bearer role, just stop and pause here. Who else or what else in War of Rights can do anything that is as important as bringing 12 friendlies every minute to wherever your company is, including, in many cases, the CO who has been killed? I don't know of any other role that is regularly that powerful. And so if you don't understand what I'm talking about here, information flags in War of Rights, as the game is currently constituted, will spawn a friendly every 5 seconds that it needs to. That's incredible fighting power. And it then lends greater assets to the CO to manage as long as the flag is up and running. My first tip here, I'm putting it up front, so if you learn nothing else from the video, just please take this tip down. If you are a flag bearer, when in doubt, get it out. You should know where spawn is relative to your position. If you're a little bit more attentive, you probably know where friendlies are. If the flag is endangered, and most likely it will be endangered because of melee, you gotta pull it back to safety. It's the most important thing. It's one of the rare times I'll advocate it's okay to die out of line doing this. Everybody else more or less should stand and die in formation as best they can. But get the flag out, get it as close as you can back to safety as possible, even if you die in the process. It's something I've caught a lot of flack from in the past. I've played it too conservatively, which is that, if I think that there's like even a 50-50 or slightly less chance that it's going to go down, I start pulling it out. You can always turn around and bring it back in, and what's lost, maybe 10, 20 seconds of being able to spawn, or maybe being able to spawn optimally. But with the benefit of hindsight, having played this game more than 4 years and done a lot of flag bearing, I can say I have never lost a map of War of Rights, and I've never seen anybody lose a map of War of Rights because the flag was temporarily out of line or in skirmishing rather than in formation. But I have been a part of, and I have witnessed many a times, particularly an attacker will lose a map because they don't get the flag out. Maybe this happens once or twice, maybe more. They cannot recover it for several minutes. They can't spawn folks in. They are basically combat ineffective as long as they do not have a flag. They can either skirmish unproductively at long range, or they can go once into melee and not recover anything if they don't have a flag. So it's better to play the flag bearer position too conservatively than a bit too brave. As a kind of additional note, just on this most important point, and then I promise I will make this a quick tips. There's usually an additional downside to losing the flag, particularly in pubs, but it's true in organized play, which is that several players, appointed or self-appointed, will try to Rambo recover that flag, and if the enemy team is astute enough to assign a couple guys to just camp that flag, your side is going to take a lot of out-of-line and skirmishing deaths, and you may still not get that flag back or get it back at great cost to you. So I can't emphasize enough, you got to get that flag out rather than lose it. People may holler at you. It is what it is, but you got to be a confident team player and know that you're doing the right thing for the team. Now, a tip to kind of quasi-help you get it out if you're in a real tight pickle. The devs added an anti-trolling feature where a flag that is run out of bounds will be available to respawn. So if the enemy has effectively cut off all your paths of retreat, and you have the flag and you're near a map edge, so you got to have all those things line up, run the flag out of bounds. You're going to die out of line anyways. So that's already happened. It's now just a question of whether your team gets the flag back sooner or later, and whether they get it back with lots of Rambo deaths in the process. So run that flag out of bounds. That's my pro tip. Okay, so first, generally, remember that as flag bearer, you want to keep open the option for your team to be able to spawn with the company as it moves. That's the most important thing, is that that option remain available. And as a kind of second level objective, but still important, to the degree that you can, you want to spawn in friendlies as fast as possible and as safely as possible. So next I'm going to talk about several situations, and they're in increasing, at least my view of the increasing order of danger as the flag bearer. So we'll start off with what I think is the least dangerous situation, and that's moving from point A to point B in column. So when you're moving in column, or kind of whatever the blob variant of a column your company is using, you should always be in formation anyways. This is true even if you're not the flag bearer. You probably don't want to be the first or the last person in that line, only because frequently there aren't enough friendlies around to keep you in formation, and folks might be joining a match, they got shot down, so they need to spawn and they need you to be in formation so they can get moving as quickly as possible. My recommendation is that probably the easiest point to find would just try to be in the middle of the line. My actual technical preferred place is at the front of the back third of the line, but I don't think that most people are going to be able to kind of figure that out on the fly, so that's fine. But the danger of being at the very back of the line is that if you get dropped, there may be no or too few friendlies who are going to pick up the flag, and then your company has the problem of, now we don't have a flag. If you're at the very front of the line, you may be so far out ahead of everybody else that you're not always in formation. Granted, there's a much better chance that the flag will get picked up. I'll talk about in just a second here another reason why you don't want to be at the very front of the line as the flag bearer. But I think somewhere about the middle is right. So the reason why I don't think you want to be at the very front or too far forward in your column has to do with situations where an enemy unit can see and is tracking your unit mostly by how you, the flag, moves. So perhaps because of a defilade or other terrain feature, they can't see a lot of the unit, but they can see you. And so, and check this out. You'll notice when folks are moving, when you see the flag move, that's when you know, all right, they're moving. So what you, the flag bearer, ought to do is wait until, we got 40-man companies these days. Let like 25 of your friendlies get the jump on the rest of that unit, and then you can start off, and there's still plenty of friendlies behind you in case you end up being dropped. All right, my last point on moving in column. If you know where the enemy fire is likely to come from, try to use your friendlies as a meat shield and put them between you and those enemies. If they get shot, well, somebody had to get shot anyways, but at least you have the flag up and it's in formation, and you can get them back into the fight as soon as possible. Okay, the next most dangerous situation I think you'll be in is in a firing line. Basically, two lines squaring off against one another, and you're duking it out at some range. I would say in general, what you see a lot of people doing is probably okay, and what a lot of flag bearers do is they run the length of the line. If the enemy sees the length of your line, that's fine. You're not giving them any new information they didn't already have. It's also okay because it's harder to hit a moving target than a stationary one. And let's be honest, nobody really wants to be your meat shield, even if they kind of understand the theory of why it's important to keep the flag up. And so if you're constantly moving, nobody has to run out of your way because they don't want to be your meat shield, because kind of everybody and nobody is your meat shield simultaneously. If the enemy cannot see the entirety of your line for, defilade or other reasons, if you continue to run the length of the line, understand that you are telegraphing to the enemy how long your line is, and they might be able to extrapolate the size of that line. Now, knowing that, if you want to be a really cagey flag bearer, and you either want to bluff having a longer line, now don't do this if people need to spawn, But if you want, you could bluff having a longer line by running much longer circuits than your line actually takes up. Your officer could also order the line into spread formation, and that would make you look longer if you're sitting in a defilade. And if you want to bait the enemy to charge and you know you have like a 45-man company, you could run just very short circuits, and the other side might think, oh, that's a small company out there, and then they find out the hard way that that's not true. Probably the best case scenario is that there's some sort of cover. Defilades are great. Rocks, trees, fence, walls. There's something there. If that's there, just stand behind that. You should have priority over that as long as you are in formation. Because again, you got to spawn friendlies relatively quickly. If there's no actual cover, then you got to use the meat shield cover. But always look for cover that is there. If you're in a covered and concealed position and you don't want to give away your unit's position, it's okay to kneel and go into skirmishing as long as no one's trying to spawn in. And at the end, this is kind of something you and the CO have to talk about, but when we're talking about big companies, sometimes the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and that person might just have to spawn a bit slower in order for you guys maybe to get the jump on an entire enemy unit. All right, the second to last most dangerous position I think you'll find yourself in as flag bearer, this might be contentious, is charging into melee. Here I would say definitely be in the back third and be as close to the back third as you can while still being in formation. Again, I think that this role is really for, it's one for those who kind of have played the game for a while and you can judge how well a melee is going. Maybe you caught the other side without loads, and maybe they all had loads and they independent fired you down one by one, and it's going to go horrendously. Because you need to make a pretty quick decision. If this is a bad charge, you need to start pulling the flag back immediately. If they countercharged you, you probably need to start pulling it out no matter what. So that's the thing. If you charged in, remember that your CO probably was at the front of that line. They got dropped in first, and so it would be nice to be able to respawn them, because one of the advantages of COs is that they spawn in already loaded, unlike your basic rifleman, and then of course they get several more shots than a basic rifleman. And now that we're in melee, we're talking about a range where those pistols are very effective. If you can stay a bit back with some friendlies who are maybe trailing up in the charge, that allows friendlies to spawn in and have like a moment to get into melee, maybe even get a bayonet on and then get into melee, rather than just spawning them in and they're dead before they even have a chance to club it. So back to the golden rule to conclude this point. If you're ever unsure, pull that flag out. Your team is not going to lose the map because they couldn't spawn or had to spawn more slowly for 10 or 15 seconds, but they may actually lose the map because they can't spawn for several minutes and take lots of ticket losses because of Rambo recovery attempts. All right, and what better place to end this than with the most dangerous situation I usually find myself in as flag bearer, and that's when you are receiving the charge. Right? You're going into melee, but it's because the other side has brought melee onto you. Again, it's just my view that this is the most dangerous. Frequently, it's the most dangerous because those who are charging in will have momentum on their side. You would assume that generally those who are charging know that they have the numbers to make this work. They may send flankers around to the back to cut off your retreat paths. I feel like even more than charging into melee, you need to be able to make a real quick decision. Are we going to win this or are we going to lose this? Because if you're going to win this, even if it means you die, then just stand there and die in formation. At least you won't give up the tickets. But if it looks like for whatever reason, right, you know that you didn't have loads when you took that charge, or you saw the size of that line and you know the size of your company, or just other things, then you might need to pull that flag out and try to get it back to friendlies or get it as close to main spawn as you can in order to save that and have the opportunity, again, in the near future to be able to spawn on that mobile spawn point. All right, these are supposed to be quick tips. I know the whole video is not as quick as I wanted it to be. I also know that I've left stuff out. That's what the comments section is for, and so I'm depending on all you War of Rights vets to fill in the gaps that I've left here. But for those of you who want to do the position, maybe want to do it just slightly better than you've been doing it, I hope that this quick tips has helped.